Hello and welcome everyone. I'm just going to give us a few more minutes to let others join. Okay. All right with you. I think I'll get started with a short welcome and still give some time for people to trickle in. Can everyone hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Kathleen Sullivan. I lead communications and advocacy for UN Habitat's Quality of Life Initiative, and I'm delighted to be moderating today's webinar, Measuring Quality of Life in Cities in North America. A warm welcome to our colleagues from local governments, municipalities, civil society, and academia across the region, and thank you for taking the time to explore how data, innovation, and community priorities can help cities better understand and improve quality of life. Today's webinar is co-hosted by UN Habitat and UN Habitat Canada and will spotlight our Global Quality of Life Initiative, which is a bold and collaborative effort to reframe urban progress using people-centered metrics and approaches. We'll hear from our UN Habitat colleagues and from the City of Vancouver, whose experience piloting the Quality of Life Index is now serving as a model for other cities around the world. Before we dive in, just a few quick housekeeping notes. This webinar is automatically set to record so that we'll have a recording of today's presentations, and we will share that recording with participants following the webinar. Some further housekeeping. We ask that you please keep your camera on if possible, since it's nice to see each other, but also because right after this, we'll take a group photo. So get those smiles ready. We also ask that you feel free to post questions in the chat at any time, and we will have a guided discussion and Q&A at the end of the webinar. Without further ado, we would like to ask to take a group photo right now. So we ask that you turn on your cameras just for a brief moment so that we can get a quick snapshot of everyone who's participating in today's webinar. And once I see that enough people have done so, Pauline will take a couple of screenshots and we'll move on.
Sure,
Don't be shy.
Can you just share your screen so that I can see everyone?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pauline.
All right, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Last one. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Pauline, for doing that. And thank you for everyone who turned their cameras on. With that done, to start us off, we will play a short video, which we like to call the Urban Symphony, which we like to think captures the spirit of the Quality of Life Initiative.
Imagine a world where the heartbeat of every person, community, and city forms a unique symphony, a symphony that leaders can listen to and also join. Welcome to the forefront of data and knowledge for policymaking in cities. Implemented by UN Habitat in partnership with the Quality of Life program, the Quality of Life Initiative is where technology meets humanity. Here, we are building a tool that combines cutting-edge, data-driven insights with the nuances of human experience, designed for policymakers to see beyond numbers to the stories they tell. Our tool doesn't just measure, it informs and guides. With each adaptation to cultural context and local needs, it offers policymakers a granular view of urban life, suggesting precise points of intervention. See the reflection of a city's soul caught in meaningful snapshots, revealing the impact of policies on community health, happiness, and prosperity. Policymakers, urban planners, community advocates. Your role is instrumental to understand and focus on what people value most. Harness this powerful tool to tune your strategies to the rhythm of your city's needs and orchestrate a brighter future for every citizen. Join us in fine-tuning the urban symphony, one that captures and enriches the normal dissonances of life. Your experience can shape the crescendo of change, ensuring that every policy plays a note in the harmony of urban development. In this urban symphony, every note counts and every rhythm builds resilience and joy. Discover how the Quality of Life Initiative can support your city. Visit unhabitat.org/Quality of Life Initiative to learn more and join the new urban symphony that is redefining the melody of urban life, one that resonates with values that really matter.
I hope that that gave you a good feel for what this initiative is all about. Building on the key themes from that video we just watched, the Quality of Life Initiative is helping cities harness people-centered data grounded in lived experiences to understand what really matters to residents, to build insights that inform sustainable urban development policies. Launched in 2023 and supported by the Quality of Life program, the initiative aims to redefine how we measure urban well-being in ways that reflect community priorities. It aims to empower local decision makers with meaningful, actionable data and to connect cities through a global, growing network of peers sharing insights, tools, and good practices. So far, more than 69 cities across 39 countries have joined the initiative, with more on the way. One of our most advanced cities is based in North America, the city of Vancouver, which piloted the Global Quality of Life Index last year to help shape it into a leading practice for others to follow. Our global open call inviting cities to join the initiative is running now and has been extended to run through the end of next week. We invite cities to formally express their interest in joining using the registration form, which I'll put in the chat immediately following my introduction. We have a fantastic group of speakers today, all directly involved in shaping and implementing the Quality of Life Initiative. I'd like to introduce Agatha Kraus, my colleague and Senior Specialist for Partnerships and Institutional Engagement with the Quality of Life Initiative in UN Habitat. She's leading our scale-up for the initiative and brings deep expertise across regional collaboration and will open today's session. Luis Herrera Favela is a Program Management Officer with UN Habitat Canada. Anna Bernal is a Program Support Consultant with the Quality of Life Initiative and UN Habitat. Jonah Erickson is an Urban Governance Specialist at UN Habitat Canada, and Peter Marriott is a Senior Social Planner from the City of Vancouver, Canada. I will now share a brief program overview. Bear with me. To go through the agenda. The objectives of today's webinar are as follows. Agatha will introduce UN Habitat's work and mandate in the Quality of Life Initiative. UN Habitat Canada colleagues will introduce UN Habitat Canada and the anniversary of Habitat 1. Agatha and Anna will present the Quality of Life Initiative and Index to cities in North America. And Peter Marriott from the City of Vancouver will share insights and lessons learned from Vancouver's experience. We will then have a guided discussion and Q&A to explore opportunities to scale the initiative across the region. With that behind us, let's now begin with the program and opening remarks from Agatha Kraus. Agatha, over to you.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. Good morning, colleagues in the North America and also in other corners of the world on this very interesting and very exciting event for us. I would like to thank you for joining us today, as well as thank our colleagues in the country office in Canada and liaison office in the US for co-organizing this webinar with us. It's the last of a series of webinars. We've been in all corners of the world, north, south, east, west, digitally, not physically, sadly, to discuss this very important subject, the quality of life, improvement and measurement in cities. And I gather that you're here today because you have something to say on this topic. So please don't hesitate to speak and to find your place in the discussion, to share your perspective on quality of life and measurement and improvement in the North American cities, as well as in other places of the world, because we have seen the list of participants. You indeed come from various places. So maybe you can provide this interesting regional or local perspective on the quality of life during the discussion time. Our project reflects on the essence of the work of local governments, which is quality of life improvement. We know all local governments, that's the mantra, that is the key essence of the work. And we're very happy to have captured it within the project. And we're very happy to have very interesting group of cities today from as mentioned in North America, as well as city networks representatives and experts on quality of life improvement and measurement from all over the world. So please, I will be very brief. Please use this opportunity to speak up. We'll have a great interventions. We have great interventions scheduled and previewed, including from the city of Vancouver, but it is your placeholder. We look forward to hearing your voices as we did before, and we've been hearing voices from other cities and partners. So I would stop here. Thank you again for being here, and please be engaged and be with us throughout this event. Thank you again. Thank you.
I will now invite a representative from UN Habitat Canada to introduce the UN Habitat Canada office and Habitat One's 50th anniversary.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kathleen. Pleasure to be all here with you this afternoon. My name is Jonah Erickson. I'm a urban policy and governance specialist with the recently opened UN Habitat Canada office. So I'd like to start by just briefly introducing our role at UN Habitat, specifically in North America. So we're part of, the UN Habitat system, working quite closely with the New York office to support both Canada and the United States. So while our New York office is focused on more liaison and political engagement, our work in Montreal is really more focused on project implementation, working directly with local governments. So we're a brand new office. We've officially just started operations 5 months ago. I am new to this role myself, so some exciting times in the North American context. And essentially what we're here as our office is really to connect and support municipalities across North America in advancing urban sustainable development. So, as most of us are probably aware, UN Habitat is really the key UN agency responsible for housing and urban development, serving as part of the larger, broader UN Secretariat. So I think what really sets us apart in our role as UN Habitat is our focal point on local governments within the UN system. It's quite a niche market, a niche opportunity. It really gives us a unique identity to ground our work and experience directly with cities and communities, in this case, in the North American context. So a key part of our mandate is to support the localization of global agendas. So especially the new urban agenda, the sustainable development goals, and really helping to translate those international commitments into local actionable strategies. So at the heart of this is really SDG 11, which really focuses on making cities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. So as UN Habitat, we are actually the custodian of SDG 11. So we play a really integral role in guiding how the 2030 agenda is localized and implemented. And we really draw a lot of that experience through close partnerships with local governments. So UN Habitat, if we've seen on the news, if we're following, has recently adopted its new strategic plan, following under our strategic plan here in Montreal, which really focuses on some key aspects of housing, land management, and access to basic services. So these priorities are quite relevant in Canada and the United States, particularly in the context of, an ongoing housing crisis, urban inequality, of course, the growing impacts of climate change. So our role is really here to support local governments in advancing the SDGs, the new urban agenda, frameworks that are often quite ambitious and complex. And our job and our work really helps to translate these quite lofty goals into local action. So we're here to provide, technical guidance, policy alignment, practical tools to help municipalities kind of bridge this gap between these larger global commitments and local realities. Especially on some of the more kind of critical issues of housing, infrastructure, and sustainable land use. So I listed on the slide here kind of some key points that highlight some of the key kind of thematic areas of our work. So now into the fun stuff. So we are a new office, but we've been working very diligently. And one of our first kind of projects or reflection pieces was understanding basically to understand where we're going. We thought it was really important to understand kind of where we've been and where it all began for UN Habitat. So the original Habitat 1 conference was actually held in Vancouver, British Columbia back in 1976. And it really marked the first UN conference that exclusively focused on human settlements. So this was really a turning point that framed urbanization as a global development issue. So the conference was a huge success back in 1976, over 2,000 delegates from 140 countries, resulted in a very important Vancouver Declaration, and essentially one of the first kind of formal frameworks that recognized housing as a human right, and also really stressed the importance of community-led and grassroots development. I think for me, what's particularly striking in hindsight, even 50 years ago, is the conversation of themes around quality of life, inclusion, livability. Of course, topics that remain really relevant today. So on the top there, you'll see a small quote from 1976. The improvement of the quality of life of human beings is essential to the objective of human settlement. So I think really reminding ourselves that this kind of theme of quality of life has been present, and that every human settlement policy should frame and prioritize this notion of quality of life. So as we approach kind of the 50th anniversary of Habitat 1 next year, these reflections will be, really at the center of our work, to kind of assess how far we've come and how much work and what strategies and connections we can make to continue to build more sustainable and inclusive cities. So as part of the lead up to Habitat 1, we had roughly 170, national documents submitted by participating countries. So these papers outlined each country's kind of urban development challenges, housing conditions, policy approaches, etc. And they really served as a foundation for the Habitat 1 conference and the subsequent discussions and roundtables. So they played really a major role in shaping the global agenda on human settlement, shaping how UN Habitat kind of came to being. On the left here, I've got a beautiful picture. I actually love the kind of retro design of it. It's a report submitted by the United States titled Growth and Development of Human Settlements, a United States Perspective. So this was submitted prior to the conference, and it's a document that reflects national priorities around suburbanization, land use, infrastructure planning, etc. So again, 50 years ago, we were still very focused on collaboration, on looking at identifying commonalities across our urban landscapes. So in terms of some of the key outcomes, the first was the adoption of the Vancouver Declaration. So this was a very substantive outcome that outlined some very key basic principles of adequate right to housing, participatory engagement, some really important themes that we see common today. What it also did do was mark the beginning of a permanent UN body, which is UN Habitat today. So it played a very important role in shaping our organization. So thank you. That was the first half of an introduction to UN Habitat Canada. I've hoped I've sparked a bit of interest and curiosity about Habitat 1. We're currently in the process of exploring celebratory means in the coming year. So happy to engage further on this with the folks in the room here.
Thank you very much, Jonah. It was great to hear about that. And now I'll hand it back over to Agatha and Anna, who will introduce the Quality of Life Initiative and Index in more detail. Agatha, back to you.
Thank you very much. And Jonah, a great introduction. You mentioned something very interesting that we really also believe in, that quality of life is the unifying concept and something that has been present. We all work on quality of life improvement across the domains, across various policy areas, across various initiatives. So this is something we do, and it is our common value, and I really like that you highlighted it. So dear colleagues, now hands-on on what we are talking about. What is this Quality of Life Initiative? And it's not only myself presenting it, but I have a great colleague, Anna, who will join this presentation. Anna is one of the key technical experts for the Quality of Life Initiative. She has great experience in data collection, working with local governments, and now she's with us for the initiative. So in a nutshell, what I will do with you today is I will provide you with an overview of the initiative, introduce you to the index. Anna specifically will deep dive on this as she's the expert on the subject. I don't know, Kathleen, can you just kindly confirm you could see the presentation?
I actually am seeing just a black screen. Is it just me?
No,
yeah,
oh, there it is.
Thank you.
There it is. It's the PACS of the internet, colleagues. Apologies for this, but this is what we will do now. Provide you with an overview of the initiative so you know what we are talking about. Second of all, we will introduce you to the index, which lays at the heart of the initiative, but it's not only component of the initiative. We'll discuss with you the piloting process, and then after us will be actually Peter Marriott himself from the city of Vancouver telling you his perspective on piloting the index, which you should know about if you're really interested in the nitty-gritty of how the things are done. And last but not least, we will tell you of how to join this great initiative. So we have this idea that quality of life measurement and quality of life improvement should be at the heart of our everyday discussions. During COVID time, we were all kind of discussing quality of life explicitly and implicitly, looking at the health and well-being of our family, neighbors, and our friends. And somehow, after the COVID's concluded, quality of life has disappeared from mainstream discourse, and our objective is to bring it back. Because as mentioned earlier, quality of life is the unifying concept for our work at the local level, but also for the work of other colleagues at regional, national, and international levels. So in order to bring it back to bring back the focus to where, in our view, it should be, we've decided to develop and test a new way of measuring quality of life. And that's been done by our technical team following an extensive research on quality of life measurement on what is out there already. And we arrived with something very unique. And we will tell you how unique our initiative is and how unique our index is. We cannot do it without cities, because we know, as we discussed before, that these are local governments that have it in their curriculum, in their area of activity, quality of life measurement and improvement across various areas of work, talking climate, transport, waste, and many others. So we've been working tirelessly over the last 2.5 years to understand what should be measured when it comes to quality of life and how to measure it. So we tested the quality of life index in cities, and I will tell you about the results. Now we've been rolling out the initiative in cities. And of course, it's not only about measuring quality of life. We are not about numbers and qualitative data. We are about more creating the discourse, creating community that has the same values, quality of life improvement. And we've been advocating, and we're going to advocate even more, to make quality of life index a global standard for quality of life measurement. And we couldn't do it without a sponsorship by the Quality of Life program in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You know very well global situation when it comes to funding for UN projects. So we're very, very lucky to have that donation. It's interesting what is on the slide. It says initiative is concluding this year, but it's a process. So if you join the initiative now, you're joining the process that will conclude continue beyond 2025. In short, how different we are. First of all, when you think about quality of life measurement, you probably think about data, disaggregated statistics, some universal ways of measure quality of life, and we say yes. So we understand that there are some objective quality of life measures, but we also understand how subjective the experience of quality of life is. When you ask people, how safe do you feel walking in a city after dark? That gives you a little bit different perspective and understanding of safety in your city, rather than if you measure it using a universal measure, such as the number of serious crimes per 100,000 inhabitants. So our index and our project is unique because it combines both subjective and objective ways to measure quality of life. That's the first thing. Second thing, our index is unique in its construction, has 2 layers, global and local. And Anna, in a moment, will tell you a little bit more about the index construction, so I will keep the suspense here. Thirdly, we're looking into data disaggregation because we understand that measuring quality of life in cities is the subject of neighborhood dynamics. Think about housing. Is access to housing affordability equal at the city level? No, it is not. Using averages is as good as it gets, in fact. And we know we pay for rent more in one neighborhood vis-a-vis the other. So within our initiative, we are promoting data disaggregation to foster inclusive policies. And last but not least, we also want to add some interesting data component that is probably not out there in many places yet, meaning, for instance, leveraging innovative data such as mobile ping data. You know, this data that is generated by your mobile phones when you move around in a city. There is very interesting data. This is very interesting data from the point of view of measuring mobility, for instance, but many cities do not have it. So within our initiative, we are leveraging this data as well as other innovative AI-enhanced tools to shed a light on quality of life in cities. There is something more. to our project and our initiative that was already alluded by our colleague in country office in Canada is that we are supporting implementation of the global agendas. We don't do it in isolation. We build on what already has been done, and we aim to support SDG measuring, localization, and acceleration. And we do so. We not only say this, we actually walk the talk. Our tool, the Quality of Life Index, is based on urban monitoring framework that is already used to measure SDG progress. Second, we have some of the indicators, SDG indicators, embedded in our framework. And I will tell you about it a little bit more. We, through measuring quality of life, we also provide complementary view on cities' assessment of progress towards SDGs. You know that by using SDG localized indicators, you know something about the city, but by measuring quality of life, you can get a little bit more refined flavor on your sustainability measurement. And we believe by combining these two perspectives, we can really have a very grounded sustainability and quality of life and measurement and reporting. We are helping to identify areas for improvement for data-driven policies and promote production of timely and disaggregated data, which lay at the heart of SDG localization and acceleration. So I hope by now you know where we come from, why we do what we do, what are the key differentiating factors for our initiative. So Anna, please take it away now and tell us about the essence of the project that is the Quality of Life Index.
Thank you, Agatha, so much for the introduction. So as Agatha mentioned, this is a global index that has the opportunity to be locally adjusted. So the index is structured following the main urban objectives and domains of the urban monitoring framework. That is the tool that UN Habitat has generated to monitor the implementation of the new urban agenda in cities. The tool has two layers of indicators. First, we have the global layer of indicators that is measuring universal concepts that apply to improving the quality of life of individuals regardless of their location in the territory and around the globe. And then you have the local layer indicators, which is a layer that the city has the opportunity to customize according to the advantages and assets that the city possesses in the territory. This means that you are considering, or you have the possibility to consider what means the quality of life in your specific context and territory in order to complement the indicators of the global layer with the indicators of the local layer. Next, please. In this sense, the quality of life is structured around the 9 domains that you are seeing on your screen. We have basic services and mobility, governance, health and well-being, economy, environment, social cohesion, education, housing, culture, and recreation. As you can see, we have an holistic perspective of what is quality of life. Next, please. And then we use this holistic perspective together with the quality of life lenses that are affordability, equity, accessibility, connectedness, the possibility of citizens to have a choice, the possibility of citizens to be included, the perception of safety and the adequation and satisfaction of citizens with the city. We took these lenses to inform the conversations and the decisions taken across of all of these domains in the initiative in order to contribute and have the building blocks of society to work towards having a prosperous urban community that has potential to include everybody. Regarding the global indicators that are built around these 9 domains, next please. We have 28 indicators in the global layer that are predefined for the cities to measure. As Agatha mentioned, we have overlapping these indicators with the SDGs. So while you implement quality of life, you are also implementing the SDGs indicators, and the source of data for these indicators are very innovative and diverse. You are going to see in this table that we are going to share after the workshop as well, the different kind of data that we were using to measure these indicators that are objective and subjective, and also we have a benchmark to measure the entire computation of the index and contrast that with the life satisfaction of the citizens in the city. Next, please. In the terms of the local layer indicators, this local layer, as I already mentioned, is able to be customized by the city. So in this sense, we develop, or the quality of life methodology demands to develop the local layer workshop. This is a participatory space with the strategic stakeholders in the city, where you are going to work with the definition of the main problems of the quality of life in the cities. What are the benefits to identify and respond to those issues? Then with all the information, you are going to select indicators that allow to measure what are the problems and the benefits of addressing those issues. And finally, with the territorial stakeholders, you are going to develop a data discovery process to prioritize which indicators are feasible and sustainable to develop in the territory, having as a result the list of the local layer indicators that are going to reflect the quality of life in the city. To accompany this process, the quality of life team has created a series of tools and guidelines. Next, please. So here we have, and we are going to present the quality of life guidelines. That is a tool, a knowledge management tool that is created to transfer the methodology of the quality of life to the city. These guidelines will help the cities to understand the overall nature of the objective initiatives and all these steps necessary to reach the result of the quality of life index. And the guidelines are directed to the policy makers, the representatives of the cities, and other stakeholders that will support the process in the cities. The objective of the quality of life team is to provide you with an effective tool, process, and policy-oriented outcome to improve the lives of your cities' inhabitants. In order to do that, these guidelines will enable cities to create a comprehensive index by the definition of a step-by-step guidance to create the local layer and integrate it with the global layer, and also to establish instructions for the indicator values and how to upload those values in the quality of life platform that I'm going to show you in the following slides. Yeah, here we have the roadmap of the quality of life initiative. So the process may take between 4 to 7 months. We have the different steps that you are seeing here. The first step is the onboarding that Agatha will enter in details on how, if cities are interested, can join. Then we have the planning, where the cities identify what they know about the quality of life in the territory, and also the territorial stakeholders that may be linked in the process. Then we have the learning about the quality of life, where our team will prepare for you different webinars to transfer the methodology of the global and the local layers. Then the cities led the step 4, the indicator development, through the development of the local layer workshop that I already mentioned. The step 5 focus on the data collection and the index computation in collaboration of the quality of life and the cities in the territory. And finally, the step 6 is about the interpreting and management of the data, where the cities will take the results of the quality of life index and understand how to use those results as inputs for different policies to promote the inclusion of vulnerable groups, and also how to manage the index through the quality of life platform. Regarding the platforms where cities, when cities join the initiative, they will have access to this very interactive and visual platform. And this platform presents the information of the entire city. It's a tool for the city to visualize and analyze the results of the quality of life. And also the cities will have access to an artificial intelligence enhanced repository of knowledge and good practices of quality of life measurement and improve. Next, please. So you are going to see the example of the quality of life index in Vancouver. As you can see here, we have the score of the city in terms of the quality of life. We have the segregated data between the global and local layers. And also we have an interactive map with the information of the global layer, where you can explore the resources and the assets that the city has in the territory. So this is a very interesting tool that will be provided for the cities and allows to discuss the results and dialogue the results with different stakeholders that doesn't have access or knowledge to GIS technologies and software, for instance. And now I will give the floor back to Agatha to continue on how to join the initiative.
Thank you very much, Anna. So, dear colleagues, so now you hopefully know quite a bit about the initiative, right? You know why we developed it. And you know that our value is to measure the quality of life everywhere and to improve it everywhere. And we went through this due diligence process to do so in a rigorous and effective manner. And Anna described to you what is the method and how unique the method is, including the participatory component of it. And now it's been all codified. And it's been those cities on this slide that helped with this process, notably Vancouver, but also other cities. Querétaro in Mexico, Medina in Saudi Arabia, Niš in Serbia, Logan in Australia, Quito in Ecuador, Kampala in Uganda, Bhubaneswar in India, Udon Thani in Thailand, and Punawia in Tahiti. You see this yellow dot on the far end right-hand corner. That's Punawia in French Polynesia in Tahiti. This is where we went as far as, this is how far we went to pilot the index, to really understand how it performs vis-a-vis different geographical, political, administrative contexts, and in places where data and administrative capacities are different. And now we are in the midst of the global call. We are having great momentum for the initiative. By the end of April, we had 69 cities from 39 countries that have joined the initiative and are measuring quality of life as we speak. In addition, at the end of April, up until 13th of June, we launched a global call for cities to join the initiative. And many cities indeed, as I mentioned, have joined the initiative, and many, many more are in the process of joining. Let me just cite some of the cities that have joined the initiative. From the left-hand side corner, cities in Mexico, Cali in Colombia, Quito, as mentioned, in Ecuador, that piloted the index, Buenos Aires in Argentina, and Manchester in the UK, in Europe, Madrid in Spain, Braga in Portugal. If you look at the central, these are cities in Serbia as well as cities in Turkey, several of them. Cities, of course, in Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East as well. And look at the right-hand side. We have a couple of dots where Japan is. We have Shibuya, Tokyo, Higashi, Hiroshima, and Yokohama, cities that have joined the initiative. So please don't hesitate to join this cohort of cities, all of which have the same vision. They just want to better measure quality of life, and they want to talk about it with us vis-a-vis international community. So in summary, you have the opportunity to join this process. It's a very unique process of quality of life measurement using innovative tool that Anna has presented. We have a great technical team. We have guidelines materials developed for you, have been tried and tested. We are deployed worldwide. The process should be run seamlessly. And it is compatible with what you're already doing by generating data on the various aspects of quality of life, climate, energy, transport, and many others. So don't worry, what you're already now doing can be used for the index. We also, for selected cities, can support global layer data collection. Also, as Anna presented, we have a platform that is AI enhanced. When you are you have opportunity to have your profile, to have your data displayed, to analyze your data, to showcase your good practices. We have the events in person, webinars such as these. And we have award process being prepared and many, many others. So it's not only technical exercise. It is a discussion. It's a momentum. It's a movement. It's a community that you are joining. And if you would like to join us, what is expected from you is to take your mobile phone out and click on this QR code and just tap on it. It will take you to the sign up of the Quality of Life Initiative. If you represent local governments, leave your details there that you're signing up to the initiative. Have this conversation that you need to have with your superiors, maybe with mayors, if they would like to join this initiative, and sign up to us to this by 13th of June. If you cannot do so for any reasons, or you're facing delays, we are there for you. We are a great team. We are fairly flexible as well. So drop us an email. We'll be very happy to consider your individual case. As a part of joining, you're requested to sign a memorandum of understanding with UN Habitat. And all the information about MOU you will also find on the QR code and the platform as you signed up to us. And then easy, you follow our guidelines, you organize local layer workshop, you derive local layer indicators that Anna mentioned. You need to derive at least 10 local layer indicators. And then you combine it with the global layer data. So the global layer indicators we identify and you collect data on. You collect this data, compute this data, and upload it on the quality of life platform. And that is all technical requirement of the process. And as mentioned, it's myself here, Kathleen. There is Mariah Devine, who is Global Project Coordinator, Riam Govalti, who is also technical expert. Kathleen and myself, we are there always at your disposal, so we can assist you throughout the process. I will also leave my contact details in the chat. And that's one of our photos from our recent events on the quality of life measurement from, you can see Peter, I can see Peter from Vancouver there, as well as our pilot cities. This is to say that you would be joining this great community of experts, cities, regions, UN agencies, and many others with the same great purpose. And I will stop here, and we have interesting program for you following this presentation, and we'll have some time for questions and answers. So yes, Kathleen, please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Agatha and Anna, for that very engaging presentation. I will now hand it back to Jonah and Luis, if he's there, to continue their presentation on localizing the SDGs in North America. Jonah, are you there?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Kathleen. Wonderful. So, as reference, there are, of course, many synergies between the quality of life index and SDG localization. Just in that previous presentation, I was very enthralled to see the city of Vancouver. I'm a Vancouverite by birth, so happy to see the city's involvement in this process. So I'd like to just quickly turn back our attention to some of the principles of SDG localization. So SDG localization at its core is really a practical and powerful tool for accelerating work that municipalities are already doing. Really the key point there, accelerating is a key term, and work that's already underway. So that's where all of you come in from different municipalities here. As leaders in local government, you of course bring a really deep understanding of your communities, your people, your challenges, and the opportunities. So you're quite often closest to the challenges, and that proximity really gives you a unique opportunity to drive meaningful change that's context specific. So as we know, this statistic has been thrown around quite frequently. Around 65% of SDG targets require local action. And this is really a clear signal that cities and regions are really essential to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. But localization, the process of localization really goes beyond this. It's really about kind of embedding these global goals into local planning, policy, service delivery, very tangible things that local governments can do to be responsive and kind of gear policies to have measurable and lasting outcomes. So when done well, SDG localization is really a catalyst for creating stronger, more equitable and resilient communities. So when we talk about localizing the SDGs, we're referring more than simply adopting the global agenda at the local level. rather than providing prescribed steps, we're guided really by a set of core principles that really make the process impactful and effective. So first, it's action orientated. So when we localize the SDGs, we want it to be designed and supported to the development of policies that drive progress, that have action implementation plans attached to them. Another key principle is that it's policy aligned. So meaning that it works in tandem with existing policies and plans, ensuring, consistency and coherence across different local agendas. Thirdly is that it's evidence-based, and we've talked a lot about data this afternoon, but really that it's relying on accurate local data to help prioritize interventions or actions, allocate resources, and track progress at the local level. And then finally, SDG localization, perhaps most importantly, is participatory. So it really builds on inclusive community engagement to ensure that everyone has a voice in and a stake in the process of how to localize global agendas. So very briefly, one key tool that's often used, and I know many folks in the call today have conducted a voluntary local review, but this is a great opportunity to kind of localize the 2030 agenda. So at a high level, it's a self-assessment to evaluate progress towards the SDGs, identify any challenges, any opportunities, actions, potential for collaboration. But it's really more than a report. The VLR is really intended to be a catalyst for strategic reflection, transparency, innovation. It allows a community to not only celebrate its achievements, but also confront gaps head on. It's a great tool for creating genuine partnership, not just within municipal teams, but importantly, and I think as we see here today, across sectors and institutions. So to date, around 333 voluntary local reviews have been published across 57 nations. So in North America, these numbers really remain quite limited. In Canada, we have 3 published voluntary local reviews with a handful in the USA. So I really think this presents a significant opportunity for leadership and innovation in this region.
Great. Thank you, Jonah, for that. Did you
Sorry,
have
just
something to add?
one last slide. Yeah, I just lost connection
Okay.
there. Apologies. So I'll just finish it off here. I just wanted to pull in a bit more of a specific example. So I really wanted to highlight that SCG localization really opens up new pathways for innovation, economic growth, and strategic partnership. Of course, all within this framework of equity and sustainability. So for example, we can take a look at SDG 83, pardon me, which really focuses on promoting innovation, entrepreneurship, enabling the growth of businesses. So this is one example where local governments really have a direct and meaningful influence, whether that be through zoning policies, targeted workplace training programs, business incubators, etc. These levers really support kind of job creation, community resiliency, and economic vitality. So when this is paired with data-driven tools like the Quality of Life Index, municipalities are really able to kind of gain sharper insight into where support is needed and really how to deploy often what are limited resources in a municipal context. So ultimately, This localization process positions municipalities as leaders in sustainable development. Not only strengthening ability to attract investment, talent, but also long-term economic opportunity. I've highlighted here SDGs 9 and 17 as well. So resilient infrastructure and partnership. When these are aligned, municipalities have the opportunity to really tap into systemic, intervention, international cooperation, again, all grounded in values of equity and sustainability. So just to close off, building on that momentum, I think from the UN Habitat Canada office, we really see this as a moment of opportunity, one might say. I think localization is not just about alignment, it's really about leadership. So it gives local governments a meaningful way to lead on sustainability and improve outcomes for communities. It's a chance to kind of leverage local insight, drive innovation, use data as an important tool for betterment of communities. And I think now is really this time to act. It's to lead with intention and really demonstrate how local action can shape global progress. So yeah, we look forward to connecting with municipalities in collaboration with the Quality of Life to see how we can support cities across North America. And I will pass it back off to you, Kathleen. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jonah. That was a great presentation. And for the sake of time, we'd like to now move from one Vancouverite to another. Peter Marriott, are you there?
I am here. How's that working?
Great. Welcome. It's great to see you. Peter is here now to share Vancouver's experience in working with the Quality of Life Initiative and piloting the Quality of Life Index and lessons learned. So thank you, Peter, for being here. Please take it away.
Sounds good. And I'll just give Teams and PowerPoint. Let's see if this works. All right, folks can see the slides.
Yes, we can.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, no, good morning. So my name is Peter Marriott, as Kathleen introduced, and I work as a senior social planner at the City of Vancouver. I wasn't actually born in Vancouver. I grew up in Edmonton, so I guess I moved west while Jonah moved east. But I've been in Vancouver for 16 years now, and have worked at the city for quite a while, or quite a good portion of that. And so I've been very happy to be part of helping Vancouver participate in the Quality of Life Initiative. So I'll start us off just with some context setting about what are we talking about when we talk about Vancouver, and we have a pretty strong commitment to reconciliation of the structures and context in which the city was created and the lands of the Indigenous peoples, or the Indigenous peoples whose lands we're on in Vancouver, and so we both acknowledge the presence of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, and also when we do work on policy and data, try to integrate a perspective that surfaces Indigenous rights, worldviews, and values, and centers that. And so as we go through the examples of some of the data we've collected in the initiative, we'll talk about how we're trying to give some depth and context to that. Vancouver, for those who haven't had a chance to live here or visit, is a very nice place to live. And so, we're defined by the natural environment around us. We're a city that's got mountains on the north side, ocean to the west, a large valley with lots of agricultural land, and a river delta to the east. And all of this is a temperate rainforest. So we by Canadian standards, are in a very mild and moderate climate. Those from other folks of the world may still find it a little bit cold and rainy. But we have a lot of assets and natural, I think, strengths that enable people to live healthy and connected lives. the city of Vancouver administratively is about 750,000 people in a region of 3 million. And so when we talk about localizing data, one of the challenges I think we often have is that the region is the context that matters for a lot of indicators, but we administratively are only interested in our local government. And so on the map on the screen, the little orange highlight is what the city of Vancouver's boundaries are, but you can see with some of the illustrations of our road network and rapid transit network that the region extends out quite a bit larger. But Vancouver proper is actually the densest large city in Canada, and so we think we're an interesting place to think about urban sustainable development, quality of life, and paths forward in a changing future. And then one last but really important point for me as a social planner and for the work that we've done to measure people's experiences of well-being is that we're a very diverse city. So almost half the population has a language other than English as their first language. About half the population was born outside of Canada, and then within the 50% that was born in Canada, there's many people like me who have moved to Vancouver from a different part of the country. And our local majority of our population is also part of the global majority of folks who are Indigenous or from racialized communities associated with migration patterns and histories and cultures and connections all around the world. And so Vancouver is not the archetypal kind of stereotype of what we expect from North America, but it's a place that when we talk about quality of life and social planning is really about enabling all of those different cultures and communities to come together and work toward a shared future. So I guess I've talked about this as well, all right, but just to kind of summarize that a little more qualitatively, when we first started thinking about what our quality of life issues are, the assets that we're building on our climate, our connection to nature, the diverse community we have, a fairly creative arts and culture scene, and as Jonah alluded to and shared, Vancouver has a long history of putting sustainability at the center of our policy and planning. And this point about leadership is very important, I think, because Vancouver has a really good legacy of leadership that those of us who work there now hope that we're continuing to build on. But we're benefiting from a lot of great work that's come before. But yeah, there's certainly no shortage of challenges for quality of life in Vancouver. Chief among them, the counterbalance of our very diverse population is that there's some pretty stark systemic inequities in access to opportunity, including for Indigenous residents. So even as we work toward reconciliation, there's a significant gap in systems and services that are accessible. Jonah mentioned housing crisis across Canada, and I think Vancouver it's especially acute, and almost a punchline that housing in Vancouver is out of reach for many people, but it creates real challenges for quality of life and a sustainable future. Social isolation, the flip side of social and economic challenges is that people have a hard time connecting with each other and forming a community. Gaps in basic needs. We, are a very wealthy and prosperous city and a wealthy and prosperous country, but there are people who fall through all the cracks, and we have folks who are unhoused, folks who lack the most basic access to water and sanitation, and that's a really important factor in quality of life. And like the rest of the world, we're coming out of a health emergency in the pandemic and the disruption that brought. And Vancouver has also been a place where the global toxic drug crisis and the experience of people overdosing has really challenged our ability to promote healthy and supportive communities and impacted a lot of people. So we're coming out of one health emergency and we're still in the throes of another. As we've mentioned as well, part of our work is about grounding in the local policies that we're already doing. And so Vancouver, in our case, we have about 11 years now legacy of having a comprehensive social sustainability plan in our Healthy City strategy that tries to address all these issues. So we call it the Healthy City strategy. We frame it as our social sustainability plan. We talk about well-being. We talk about equity, but it's really also our quality of life strategy. And so there's an interesting, I think, unifying opportunity for us to think a little more intentionally about all of these terms. But for us in social policy and in the planning space, we see all these concepts as really talking about different sides of the same thing, which is people's ability to thrive in the urban environment. And so because of the Healthy City Strategy, we already have long-term goals, metrics, lots and lots of indicators, lots of data work to build on, which I'll share a few examples of in a couple slides. And at this exact moment, our original strategy from 2014 set goals to 2025. So we're right in the midst of taking stock and updating those for the future. So it's a timely moment for us to think about quality of life, or healthy cities, or social sustainability, or equity from a holistic and long-term view. We also, building on some of the examples that have been shared before, have gotten direction from our city council. So back in 2020, we had a councillor who was very interested in Vancouver stepping into a leadership role in relation to the SDGs, and so council did pass a motion for us to explore ways to align that flows through all of the work we're doing in the Healthy City Strategy. In 2023, they signaled that updating the Healthy City Strategy was going to be a council priority for their term, so that we appreciate. And then most recently, in fall 2023, we took a report forward when the opportunity to be a pilot city for the Quality of Life Initiative came forward, and council supported that. And then last year, they gave us a scope and direction to focus on updating the Healthy City Strategy. So those two things gave us the context that we're in right now. Again, this is a lot of setup, so I won't spend a ton of time on this, but just to share, if folks are interested, we have a public report that went to our city council in 2023 on what we saw as the benefits of being a pilot city in the Quality of Life Initiative. And they included the chance to access new data sets, tools, and resources, including the innovative approaches that Egata and Anna shared, the chance to learn from global good practices and be part of shaping a global initiative, build on the council direction that we'd gotten to look at ways to localize the SDGs. And it was a timely opportunity for us locally because of what I mentioned of our need to update our overall social sustainability plan. So it was a great opportunity at exactly the right time. And so we really appreciated that, and our city council supported it. And so how did we go about actually piloting the index? So I'm leaving out all of the stages where we were also very lucky to participate in consultation in the development of the program and in the index itself. But fast forward to last spring and summer of when we actually started to put it into action. So we, over 2 very intense days, convened about 50 people, not all at the same time, but a pretty good cross-section of city staff across different departments, partners from our regional health authority, folks from the research and community services sector, really tried to bring in different perspectives and lived experiences as well. So we drew on the connections that our staff in social policy have with for example, folks in the disability community who'd been contributing to Vancouver's accessibility strategy, folks who've been contributing to our anti-racism work, folks who work in our Indigenous Relations Office, and so aligned with our efforts to put reconciliation and equity at the center, we tried to bring those voices into the room. And we ignored some of the very good advice we got from the initiative and had way too many people talking about way too many things, but it gave us a really rich, I think, starting point and set of data to draw on. So over those 3 workshops in 2 days, we had the group identify 47 quality of life issues, which we can't possibly tackle in totality, but was useful to start framing a lot of this complex work around quality of life, and 224 potential indicators, which even now makes me laugh. But it was a really engaged and productive conversation, and gave us a really great list to draw from, and then made our work that much harder at the staff level to try to narrow that down and shape it. But we did. And so over summer and fall, we drew on a lot of the work that we were already doing in the Healthy City Strategy, but had a chance to focus and I would say enhance it. And so we spent a lot of time working with departments and other partners to identify new data sets and analyses. I had lots and lots of emails back and forth with our friends at the Health Authority, for example, to talk about some of the long-standing opportunities we talked about but never actually put into practice to share some health administrative data, and worked on that. Even where we already had indicators, there was a lot of technical work to now start thinking about benchmarking, and that was actually a really useful exercise for a lot of these things. And And one of the interesting parts about being a pilot city is we're continuously refining this work. And so we came out at the end of this process with 27 local indicators, 3 per domain. But the reason I haven't put that number on the slide is that there's been still some fluidity as we've worked to finalize, as the global index has been shifted a little bit, and then as we start to get into actually collecting data, we had to make some shifts and pivots as well. So it's roughly 27 that we ended up with, but a really participatory and iterative process. And then one specific opportunity in Vancouver that I think we were able to really take advantage of being part of the initiative to deliver a little bit more than we just needed to for the initiative, but really to benefit some of our local policy as well, is when it came time to actually collect some of the subjective indicators in a survey. We again got to be a little bit difficult and not just use the sort of easy methods of some opt-in social media surveys, but actually tried to give it a large and rigorous enough sample that we could disaggregate. So this, I'll show some examples in the slides coming up, gave us a really rich data set that we're still working through and deciding all the possible use cases of. And we built on the city already having a really strong public engagement platform and some survey tools that we could repurpose to try to get a decently representative and robust data collection exercise. So we had about 5,000 responses to our survey over a month, which was pretty good, I think. We used a hybrid methodology where people could opt in. We had an existing panel that gave us about half of the responses kind of right off the bat, folks who'd already identified that they were interested in giving feedback to the City of Vancouver. And then we did also purchase from a market research company a top-up sample to try to get to neighborhoods and age groups and other communities who historically have been less likely to take part in surveys. And so we by no means have a fully representative sample, but we worked as much as we could in a short amount of time to try to make it as robust as we could. Some of the tactics we did to promote participation, we were lucky to have some folks on the team who actually had just started, and we were like, hey, do you want to take this poster and go to all these community events, or do you want to go do some outreach with a program that was happening, especially in some lower income communities in Vancouver that would be less likely to take part online. So again, we would do a lot more with more time and resources, but we were lucky to have an opportunity in the moment to go out and connect with people in the real world. And we translated to try to get participation from some of our important cultural communities into the 6 most common non-English languages spoken in Vancouver. Right, so I'm gonna move quickly because I know time is short, but just to share some illustrations of the results. I think folks have the ability to navigate back and forth on their own, so I'll go very fast, but please feel free to go at your own pace if need be, or to zoom in on any of the data points. So the folks already shared what the global platform looks like, and so here's the same screenshot of Vancouver and how this participation in the pilot has been useful for us to start to set global benchmarks and understand where Vancouver stacks up on the global indicators. Not surprisingly, housing is the biggest gap for us. But it's also useful to surface issues around, governance, which is about, participation, efficacy, overall level of satisfaction with local government services. It's helped identify some gaps there. And then the social domain, where we talk about social isolation, disconnection, some of the challenges around belonging in Vancouver, and the global indicators have helped us really surface those issues as well. I'll dig a little bit deeper into just what we're starting to do with the survey results and the sample that we got. So we shared some of the high level averages around life satisfaction and mental health, and these show up in the global indicators, but we're also able to do a much more in-depth analysis of who is actually in different parts of this spectrum, who experiences the largest gaps in these issues. And if we're benchmarking ourselves as a whole, that's one story, but as we start to break out into different communities, it tells a different one. And to Agatha's point around disaggregation, that's a really important use case for this data set. And just to give one illustration of that, if we on the whole have about half of our sample, ranking their life satisfaction 8 out of 10 or higher, that's okay. But what's the really important story is as we start to break that down. So this one does an analysis by both age group and income, and shows us right off the bat that there's a huge divide between older persons 65 and older who have a relatively higher income and younger adults who have a relatively lower income. And so it helps us break out and focus our work on, if we're going to make an intervention to promote, connection, belonging, access to resources, things that help address life satisfaction, where do those get targeted? The advantage of doing our survey and having the chance to participate is it's also given us a chance to experiment a little bit with different ways of collecting data. And so loneliness is a really important concept, but there's lots of different ways to measure it. And so we tested a few in our survey, and we're still making sets of the results and deciding what to do, but we used a composite index that reports on 3 different elements of loneliness, and that's shown in the first 2 charts. And we also did a single item, are you alone more often than you'd like to question, and kind of tested the results for that. And so we'll be doing some further evaluation, and this will help us decide how we carry forward indicators like this into the future. And we also, because of our large sample set, have started to map what this looks like across the city's neighborhoods. And so in this case, we can see that, using the sort of single scale, are you alone more often than you'd like question, neighborhoods in the eastern side of the city, as well as in the south and some of our downtown neighborhoods stand out as having bigger gaps with loneliness. And then this helps us start to ask questions around policy. So in the southeast, for example, there's a gap in social infrastructure that enables people to connect. And so this helps us make the case for the city investing more in those areas. In some of the downtown neighborhoods, I think this reflects some of the socioeconomic challenges that folks, especially in that young adult demographic, are facing. And so it probably tells us more about programming and outreach and opportunities there. And so each of these individual data points can surface a whole bunch of stories and potential actions. And that's hopefully going to inform our work in the Healthy City Strategy as we go forward. 2 more data slides, which I'll breeze through. We also, as part of our valuing of diversity and inclusion, asked both sort of asset-based questions around whether people feel confident in expressing themselves and feeling connected with diverse communities in the city, and got overall really, I think, good results on those, with the biggest gap being in making sure that there are services and supports available that are responsive to the needs of different communities. And so, again, as we disaggregate each of these indicators, it helps us focus and target. And then we also asked a more negative sort of frame question of how people have experienced discrimination in the city. And that one, again, really clearly surfaces some stories around some of the systemic inequities that people face. And so, women, non-binary, gender diverse folks experience some of the highest rates of discrimination, people with lower incomes, racialized and Indigenous residents, people in more precarious housing situations, people with disabilities, people who are part of the lesbian, gay, trans, and queer community, and so on. And so each of these data points, again, helps us think about the kinds of programs and services that the city can provide, as well as some of the work that we're doing through our equity framework, anti-racism, anti-oppression, transgender, diverse, two-spirit inclusion, accessibility work. And so it's reinforcing and helping us focus on a shared set of outcomes across all of those policies. So last 2 slides, and then I'll make some space for discussion. I think the chance to participate in the Quality of Life Initiative in Vancouver has really helped us build on our existing work. And as I've given some examples of, we were already doing a lot of data and indicator work, but this has helped us add a lot of value and refine and focus that, which is great. The chance to connect with different cities is always a plus. And I personally have certainly enjoyed the pictures from the World Urban Forum last year, but the chance to connect and just learn more about the chances for Vancouver to connect with global networks. I didn't share examples of this, but the different data sources that Egida spoke of that show up in the global layer have been super interesting and also lots for us to learn from. And then through the survey tool in particularly, we've demonstrated the feasibility of collecting data ourselves. And so now our challenge is how to regularize that into policy. So what's coming up? In the short term, we do need to report back to our survey participants, which I am several months behind on, but we'll get to that. We'll start to socialize and share the results within our internal tools, and we are planning to go to our city council this fall with an update on the healthy city strategy, and so that will include an update to them on the initiative and the results from our piloting stage. And then, yeah, over the long term, how do we regularize? How do we systematize? So we want to look at ways to integrate the most promising indicators into our policy and track them over time, figure out how we can repeat the data collection, and finally to go back to acknowledging the land that we're on, our work with different communities. What's really important to us is as folks have spoken to throughout the webinar, not just to present the numbers, but to really engage the communities who are impacted and showing up and work with them to shape both how we understand, interpret, present the data, but more importantly, how we respond and put it into practice. So I'll stop there. Thank you for letting me go a little bit over time, and yeah, looking forward to further conversation.
Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing your experience piloting the Quality of Life Index and working with the Quality of Life Initiative more broadly. It's really great to hear your perspective and how you started and what the process was like for you over the past year and a half. So we really appreciate those insights. I would like to first off say that we're running a little bit behind schedule. So I hope people can stay on a little bit longer so we can have a bit of a Q&A and a guided discussion. I'd like to open the floor now to invite people who've been patiently waiting on this call to ask any burning questions to any of our speakers, Agatha, Jonah, Anna, and Peter. If you want to ask any questions about anything we've presented on thus far, and then we'll move into a guided question, and I'll share some of those questions we have in the chat. But first, any burning questions from any of our participants? Karen, please.
Hi, everybody. I live in Vancouver. Obviously, I do live in Vancouver, and I'd like to say that from what I've been seeing and what our city planner has been saying, the possibility of affordable housing in this city has been taken away from a lot of people. The opportunity to ever own their own place just doesn't exist unless you win a $6 million lottery it would take to buy a place here now. And I think that having one's own cave is a primal urge in each person. And when you take the possibility of that away from masses of people, we end up with the social problems that we have and the mental health problems that are horrifying. I mean, I live in an affluent part of the city here in Kerrisdale, and it's just shocking what's going on here with obvious, mental health problems people have. And then the second thing, I'll say it quick and then I'll shut up, is that so many people have moved to the city of Vancouver from all over the world and to British Columbia, and the federal government isn't transferring enough tax funds to this province to cover healthcare in this province. So it's really disintegrated. I mean, it's hard to believe what's going on. Anyway, that's it. That's my spiel. And I'd like to be more in touch with Jonah Erickson and maybe help a bit. I used to work for Spaxman and all that gang at one time. Anyway, okay, that's me done. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you, Karen. I don't know if anyone from UN Habitat Canada or Peter want to respond to anything Karen just said.
I mean, I think I would just confirm that in the data we collected in the initiative, housing definitely shows up as I mean, the biggest gap in the global indicators, and many of our local ones try to capture that feeling of precarity and uncertainty. So just to agree that I think housing is at the root of a lot of those challenges.
Yeah, and Karen, just to follow up, we'd be happy to connect with you at UN Habitat. We'll have our email address posted at the end of the presentation, so happy to connect with you as well.
I have one more thing. Am I on still? Am I still
Yes.
being heard? Okay, so one of the local businessmen here was saying they can't open their business on Mondays because they can't get workers because young people don't want to work. And I said back to him, are you kidding? I mean, they can't work in this city at minimum wage. They can't afford to live here. So if they have to live miles and miles away, how are they supposed to get to home at 2 o'clock in the morning when a restaurant closes or whatever? So, I mean, young people do want to work, and young people are fantastic. And more of them are moving out of this province because they can't afford to work here. Anyway, okay, done.
Thank you, Karen. Agatha, did you want to come in?
Just wanted to say that housing is a vector for development in various ways. When you plan for housing, you plan for quality of life. So we do understand it under the initiative as well. So you can look at various indicators through the housing lens and to connect them back to housing, because housing is a basic human right, is for all. So we also would be happy to have that discussion further. And many of our cities do measure housing affordability, housing cost, housing accessibility. So that is a very important part. And as Ionach mentioned, it's a part of UN Habitat, a strategic plan in the coming years. So very much spot on. But there are some more questions in the chat, right, Kathleen? I saw there's at least a few.
Yes, I think I'll go through quickly some of Kurti's. And step 4, the indicator development stage. Yes, each city does develop a unique local layer that is based on the city's unique priorities and context. And to do this, they have a local layer workshop as one of the main steps in the process, where they're consulting. And we're happy to send you more information on that if you're interested. Is the online surveying the primary mode of data collection? Yes, I think the survey is a little bit flexible. Some cities have actually gone out and done in-person interviews and other methods of dissemination for the social survey. I don't know, Peter, if you want to come in, but you did share some examples of how you disseminated your survey. But we do provide a base guide for sharing an online survey for all cities that then cities can augment to add their own additional layers related to their local layer. Please come in, Peter.
Yeah, I think just to agree with that. And I mean, I think the initiative has done quite a bit of work with researchers and statisticians and kind of weighed the pros and cons of different approaches. So I think the baseline in the initiative is kind of an opt-in social media survey, which is a very quick way to collect responses. But you know, each city has the option to proceed. And so for us, we did do a I think more involved approach where we you know didn't get, like I said, a random representative sample, but try to build a robust enough data set and to use some survey tools that would give us a little bit more analytical capacity, but the benefit of localizing the initiative is that kind of full range of options is available depending on cities' capacities. And I know among some of the other first mover surveys, like Logan did a much smaller survey, but it was good enough for the results that they needed to get for the initial indicators.
Yes, thank you. And we're happy to come back to you with more detailed responses. If you send us an email on that, on the survey, we can give you more examples of some of the options. Anna, did you want to come in on the index question? You're raising your hand.
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. Yes, sorry, just to comment that also we are using indicators that are taking information for mobile ping data and also machine learning through satellite images. So regarding the next question about the index computation, are the outputs of the index presented as standalone indicators, or are they combined through analysis to generate a compositive quality of life scores? Yes, all the indicators are standardized or normalized and then aggregated with in between the local and the global layer. So you are going to have a final score for the city. Nevertheless, nevertheless, it's very important to understand that the quality of life index doesn't is not built to control the information between cities, considering that all of the cities have a unique local layer indicator index. So it will be, it doesn't make sense to contrast the information between cities. The information is for the cities to make strategic decisions in order to improve the quality of life of the territory. And I also can respond to the next questions if that's okay with you, Kathleen.
Sure,
the ones
go ahead.
From Kirti. Okay, so thank you so much for these very interesting questions. Regarding the next one, are the local urban infrastructure and environmental correlates assessed to help to identify the investment and urban planning priorities that enhance the quality of life? Yes, for sure. The cities have the possibility to define the specific priorities and assets that want to measure in order to make strategic investments in the territory. That is allowed through the integration of the local layer with the urban layer. So in that sense, the cities are free to define the indicators that are a priority for them in order to identify these territories or communities that need to be reinforced with infrastructure or other kind of solutions. And the next one that we have is what are some of the key challenges in implementing the index cities in developing countries compared to those in developed countries. I think my colleague Agatha can come in here as well, but I think one of the most the most visible challenges that we have is the availability of data. It's not the same working with cities in North America that are very developed, and for instance, Vancouver that already have crowdsourcing platforms to collect information from citizens and have many disaggregated data that work with cities in different parts of the world that have less development data management systems. So that's from my perspective.
I will also add that our innovation team is building new tools to help capture new and interesting, previously unavailable data using mobile ping data, satellite imagery, and things across all of our cities, and trying to level the playing field, especially for our global layer where the indicators are the same, to enable cities that may have not had access to that information previously to see that data like never before. So that's something we're really proud of, and a way that we are helping to solve the challenge of data availability and access. Agatha, did you want anything come in on that?
Thank you. No, but I see also some interesting questions in the chat from Balkis. She's asking regarding the data that needs to be collected to measure quality of life. Are there any standard tables or frameworks, Anna, available that local governments can use as a reference?
Okay, thank you for the question. During the webinars to transfer the global and the local layers, we are going to present you with some data sources that you can use to define the local indicators in that case and to measure the global indicators. So we don't have a specific database per country, but we provide you with the guidance for you to being able to identify those sources by yourself. And also it's very important to mention that in the involvement of different stakeholders in the process is strategic for the development of quality of life index. As we explained, the process to define the local layer workshop is done by a participatory process, and those actors that are going to participate in that process will support you in collecting information. Maybe they have the information, maybe they know where to find that information or can be collected in the future. So it's very strategic to involve different partners in the process.
Thank you, Anna. And yeah, just to add on that, we are building an local layer menu of indicators, which is a forthcoming add-on to what Anna was just talking about. So something that's a bit more formal to assist cities in understanding what the options are out there and what other cities are using. Can you share with us a survey? We certainly can share examples, and we do have a survey guide, and as part of our implementation guidelines, we'll be sharing that with cities that join the initiative. Thank you, Joe, who I think has left the meeting. Joe Sergi is a part of our academia community, and he left a nice comment who said, as an academic who's done more than 40 plus years of research on community quality of life indicators, much of your work is music to my ears. Kudos to the team. Looking forward. Thank you, Joe, for that. Joe is also highly involved in the academic ESQUALS community, and helped us along the way in informing how we should measure quality of life at the global layer. I wanted to now go back with no other visible questions in the chat or hands raised, to invite those of you who are still on the call. Oh, Anna, did you see something you want to add to?
Yes, so sorry, I'm seeing a question that we haven't answered. How can this program be updated to small urban municipalities? Just to let you know that the quality of life index can be applied to a city of any scale. So it could be applied in a small municipality as well as a big one, as we saw in the case of Vancouver. We have seen this in the pilot exercise with different cities around the world. So the local layer provides that flexibility to adapt the index to the necessities of the specific needs of your city. So it doesn't matter the size of the city, you can apply the index to your specific context. Sorry for the interruption.
Oh, thank you, Anna. That's an important question and a great answer. I really appreciate that. In the limited time we have left, I wanted to open the floor for a guided discussion and also to invite those of you who haven't already spoken or asked questions. I noticed among our participants today, we have representatives from cities including DC, the city of Sacramento, Petawawa, and Fort Erie, among others. We had members of academia from Princeton, UC Davis, and Virginia Tech, and from city networks including Global Cities Canada, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and Quebec. And I'd like to open the floor now for any of you to come in to answer the question, what are the quality of life priorities in your cities? And I will pick on you if no one volunteers. Hey, Shukri from my hometown of Washington, D.C. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much for this briefing.
Thank you for coming and joining us for this webinar. We wanted to take an opportunity to ask guiding questions to some of our city representatives here today, to ask you to introduce your city to us and tell us a little bit about what are your quality of life priorities in your city, and what you think is needed to better measure quality of life in your city.
Yeah, for our city, I think the our quality of life is definitely like having like affordable housing, accessible like public spaces, making it freedom of movement, like having transportation that is accessible for our communities. Yeah, so I think like all of that is definitely very important to the mayor and to our office.
Great, thank you for sharing. I will now turn. I see there's some interest in the representative from Sacramento, who I believe is Mr. Randall. If you're here, there's Susan would like to connect with you, and we'd love to ask you the same question. What are the quality of life priorities for Sacramento, and what do you think is needed to better measure quality of life in your city?
Great, thank you, Kathleen. And I'll just say for Susan, I'm staff in the Long Range Planning Division at the City of Sacramento. My colleague Jolyn Shoemaker was here from University of California, Davis, and so we've been able to partner on some work around voluntary local review for the city of Sacramento. So that's kind of our background coming into this discussion. And so just to look at our quality of life priorities in the city of Sacramento, the discussion around housing is really salient. Housing is a chronic issue in Sacramento, but California broadly. And so that's really, at the heart of our priorities as a city. The city did complete an update to our general plan, completed our 2040 general plan and climate action and adaptation plan last year. And those were really driven by a vision statement of in 2040, the city of Sacramento will be a national model of sustainable, equitable growth and community development. And that's really supported by 6 guiding principles, which are sustainable and responsible growth, resiliency and climate action, ensuring that Sacramento is a safe, equitable, inclusive, and just city, strengthening Sacramento's role as a regional economic hub, prioritizing livability and a sense of place, and ensuring that Sacramento is an interconnected and accessible city. And so that's really underpins the policy direction that was developed in our general plan and climate action and adaptation plan, and a range of implementing plans that have been completed in the past year and a half or are in process at this point. So just wanted to frame that as the city of Sacramento's priorities for quality of life.
Thank you for sharing. That answers a few of our guiding questions together. Agatha, please come in.
Thank you very much, Victor. That is actually putting the nail at the heart of the debate that we've been addressing as well. Because as been said many times during the debate today, that the quality of life is the unifying concept, and everything we do, it has to do with having to do with sustainability, transport, waste, and many others, has the quality of life component to it. And I just wanted to share quickly 2 slides with you and the colleagues gathered to show you how this can be done, because on our side, these are not just the words, it's actually been tested. So all the great work done by UN Habitat within SDG localization program, SDG cities program that Yona has highlighted is connected very well with the quality of life measurement. Have a look at this. A quality of life index was built based on sustainability data, based on the VLR in the case studies of Niche that piloted the index, as well as Udon Thani in Thailand. So they have developed VLRs prior to developing the quality of life index. So they generated a lot of great sustainability data, and they worked very closely with country offices for this purpose. So there was a great collaboration to build on already when we as quality of life came in. So we had that experience in Niche specifically. And the Niche's VLR indeed was focusing on some of the SDG indicators, 26 of them, and was completed in 2006 and had the primary purpose to support preparation implementation of the general urban plan for the city. So long story short, what they did is for the local workshop, which was highlighted as a participatory process, they used some of the VLR findings. So of course, when they did VLR, they quickly managed to pick up the sustainability challenges that closely relate to quality of life. So they used that narrative, this line of reasoning for the quality of life index, and they used the VLR data for the local layer indicators as well as the global layer indicators. And thanks to these experiences, we developed VLR adapted user journey to produce the index based on the VLR. So I'm very happy for your comment, and as well as I'm very happy for the reflections of the colleagues from country office about SDG localization, because this is a great effort that is a baseline for many, many other engagements and processes, including our initiative. So big thank you for this on our side.
Thank you, Agatha. Just continuing in our discussion and picking on some of the other cities, turning to Canada or back to Canada, I wanted to ask if the representatives from Petawawa or Fort Erie are still on the call, and if you'd like to come in and share some of your priorities for addressing quality of life or measuring quality of life. I think we've had a few people drop off because of the timing, so maybe they have already left the call, but we can follow up. Does anyone else want to come in? We have several city networks, Global Cities Canada. I think that person has already said they left. The Federation of Canadian Municipalities, Quebec, as well as some academic institutions. Would any of you like to come in and talk about what you think should be addressed in measuring quality of life more broadly? Any perspectives from civil society? No? Okay. Well, please come in, Agatha. Were you about to say something?
Yes, thank you, Kathleen. I think overall we presented the process and great experience in Canada, and we allowed for colleagues to come in. So I would suggest maybe if there is no further question, we move on to some sort of brief summary, because the key messages are there quite well being spelled out, not necessarily by us, but by other colleagues gathered, meaning that the quality of life is the unifying concept for a lot of great work done at local level and done by us and our colleagues at the global level. And this work, these projects set the ground and set the stage for the discussion about the quality of life, which in many places is indeed implicit. And I'm very happy that housing was highlighted as a vector for development, as one of the most pressing development challenges in the countries, in the cities and in the countries in the Nordics, indeed, in the North American cities, indeed, and that there is the need to connect to quality of life measurement with a bigger data mobilization efforts, as well as policy making and action, because in the end we do generate this data for a reason, as Peter highlighted, to improve policy making and to deliver change through a cooperative process. So these are the things I picked up on during the discussion, but we have colleagues in country office in Canada who also probably picked up on some interesting matters. So please don't hesitate to take it away.
Jonah, would you like to add anything?
No, I mean, thank you, Agatha. That was a great summary. I think just reiterating some of the key points today around the importance of data. We all know and are aware of the impact that data has on supporting policies and practices at the local government level. So again, just reiterating the synergy between the Sustainable Development Goals, Quality of Life Initiative, and more broadly, SDG localization is something that's a very important topic right now, and something I look forward to exploring more with municipalities across North America. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that. And as you've seen, I've just shared a context for both the Quality of Life Initiative and UN Habitat Canada. So you can all take down those emails and feel free to reach out to us if you have any further questions about the initiative, the index, or anything else. We're here for you. We're very responsive, and we hope to hear more from North American cities about joining the initiative. Our open call is running until June 13th. And as Agatha said earlier on the call, but we're happy to hear from you if you have any questions or if you have any extenuating circumstances that may prevent you from expressing your interest before then. We're ready to listen, and please do reach out to us and go to QOLimpact.com to check out not only the city of Vancouver, which Agatha, Anna, and Peter shared earlier, but the other pilot city data. Poke around as much as you want and come back to us and let us know what you think. We will be sharing the recording of this webinar with you next week, as well as some key highlights and notes. If you have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you all very much for joining.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you, colleagues. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye.